Hello, you multi-magicians of maltiness, and thank you to Amanda Groves for that malt mention. Maltmates, welcome to the bothy, somewhere mystical, on a green-sceptred island in the Irish Sea. I'm Ralphie, your host, and I know leprechauns and fairy folk and selkies and banshees because they're all around us in the environment. We are partly the product of our environments. Our environments, wherever we are, they influence us. And as we get on in life, one of the challenges is to exert our own influence on the environment that we live within and the environment around us, whether we're exploring it, participating in it, communicating in it, part of a social network, perhaps we're doing voluntary stuff, but also in what we spend our money on, what we buy, is so important in contributing to our quality of life within the environments we inhabit. And what a bottle of alcohol does, it brings the smell and taste of another environment to you. It could be Scotch whisky, it could be Irish whisky, it could be English whisky, it could be Welsh whisky, it could be bourbon, it could be rye, it could be rum, it could be Canadian, it could be Australian, it could be South African, it could be Mexican, it could be from anywhere around the world. When we open a bottle of spirits, wherever we are, that's come from somewhere else, we are getting an insight into the flavours of that place. The whole world is our menu when it comes to alcoholic beverages, because alcoholic beverages capture the alcohol, captures the flavour, preserves it, retains it. And it's only when we go to these places that we realise how significant that is. A few years ago I went to Italy, not for the first time. I just love the whole aesthetic of Italy. And I was in Amalfi, a beautiful part of the world. And I was standing in the steps outside the local church, and a nun was selling limoncello. Limoncello in Italy is a lemon-based liqueur. And the thing is, what I want you to let you know is, the nuns make the best version of limoncello you will ever find, because it's their passion. It's an income to their nunneries, and they really know what they're doing because they have the time to do it right. And they have the lemons growing all around them. They pick the lemons, they peel, they press, they remove the skin off. They don't just put it all into the ferment at once. They hold back the skins of lemons to get the lemon oil. And then they get the pith, the white, the rind with its bitterness. So when they produce their distillate, you have the full spectrum flavour of the best quality lemons that you could possibly find on the planet. And you look at the bottle and you can see at the top of the bottle there's little drops of lemon oil, raw lemon oil, because it's completely unfiltered. So I bought a bottle and I took it back to my hotel room and opened the window looking out over the Mediterranean and Vesuvius, over the mountains and over the Mediterranean, because I had a kind of corner room. I poured a wee glass of this limoncello and it was just, the aroma just rose up and mingled with the sunset going down, and it was a fantastic, memorable moment. One of many that I've had that has been fueled by alcohol, because after a few sips, I'm not quite sober anymore, but I'm certainly not drunk. I'm not buzzed. I'm not even tipsy. But the psychological effect of the alcohol on my senses is highlighting, it's amplifying the smell, the taste, the sounds in the street, the view of the sun going down. All my senses are triggered at once. And alcohol can do that. Most things don't. Most things are partial in the way they react to our senses. And I know that coming home with that bottle in my suitcase, it wasn't a malt moment. It was a limoncello moment. But it was quality. And drinking whiskey, good whiskey, I had plenty of experience of what quality was. So I knew to recognise quality for what it is, however it is presented and packaged. And I should have bought 2 bottles, but I'm glad I bought 1. Because I had another bottle and I could only get 2 bottles back in my suitcase without getting surcharged airport tax. It's the practicalities. It was a few months later, back in Scotland, and it was a winter's day. It was cold, wet, damp, dreary. But as the clouds passed away and the temperature rose with the sun bouncing brightly on the window of my house, and with the fire burning in the grate, I poured another glass of that limoncello. And I closed my eyes, and on smelling it and tasting it from the glass, I went straight back to Amalfi, to that little hotel room overlooking the Mediterranean with a corner of the view taking in the mountains and the street sounds outside of constantly tooting scooters and people shouting and waving their hands. So I had the visuals as well. I had the visuals and the memory, and the strength of that visual was enhanced by the smell and the taste of the limoncello. I've had it with bourbon. I bought a bottle of bourbon in Las Vegas. I opened the bottle in my hotel room and I poured a glass. It was in a tumbler. It was fine. I was making the most of what I got in the moment. But down in the casino below, and I'd gone to the bottle shop and I'd bought a bottle of bourbon that I'd never seen before. It was called Elmer T. Lee. I poured a tumbler. And I thought, this is seriously good quality. This is a real proper bourbon. An old school bourbon that's made the way bourbon really should be made. With a proper full spectrum sour mash. From a proper old school recipe by people that haven't rushed the spirit through and then dumped it into the cheapest casks that they could source. They've put it into reasonably active cask. And it's been in a warehouse where it's not too hot. It's not been up in the roof space where it's been baking and broiling with the heat of the sun above. This is good bourbon. And I looked out the window and there's the carriageway and the cars, the noise of the casinos below and the massive car parks. And that's not quite the real America. It really isn't. America's a big country. There are many sides to America. But smelling that bourbon and tasting that bourbon and knowing the quality of it, registering the quality of it, that was a special moment. I remember that moment. It was all about the quality. I've since bought a few bottles of Elmer T. Lee before it disappeared, before it became outrageously expensive, before it went for top dollar at auction. It's the way it goes. We seize the moment when the moment is made. We go exploring, and when we go exploring, we discover treasure. And this is the way we build our experience over the years. There's no rush in this journey because there's no particular destination. It's a series of small destinations along the route, along the highway of our journeys. And I call them malt moments. And it's when I buy a bottle of liquor, and it doesn't have to be Scotch whisky. I really enjoy my malt moments when I buy a rum, for example, from the Caribbean, in particular the Caribbean. Could be from Barbados, it could be from Martinique, Trinidad, probably from an independent bottler, could be from Jamaica, Cuba. And if the quality's there, it takes me to the Caribbean. I've been lucky, I've travelled a bit. I've been to Cuba. I've been to San Dominica. Been to Panama. I've had my adventures. And when you taste the rum, and it's best in a cold northern winter, particularly tropical matured rum, where it has more presence of sunshine and it has more heat, of a more warmth heat in the liquor. And you pour the glass and you nose it, and then you add a little drop of water and you taste it. And it's a sugar-based spirit, but it's not refined sugar. It's sugar complex. It's sugar cane juice that's been either fermented as is or fermented after being reduced to molasses, or even half and half. And it could be pot still, it could be column still. There are so many permutations. And it's rum, but I'm still getting another malt moment. Or I could go to Mexico. I've never been to Mexico. But I can pour a good mezcal, something smoky, something raicilla, something that's a little bit earthy and rustic and gritty. And it's not polished. And it's not been chemically refined like a vodka is. The flavour's there, the real flavour. And it may not be you don't want pure. You don't want clean. You don't, for goodness sake, malt mates, I'm telling you, you don't want smooth. Never ever want smooth. No chance. Never. You want something that's got the full dynamic, because it's not just the flavour, it's the presence of the place. And this is what you build in this experience over time. And I've never been to Mexico, but I can smell a mezcal, and I just find myself in an arid desert, under the baking sun, in the heat, and I can hear a guitar playing, and I can smell wood smoke, and I can see the piñas out stacked against a mud hut with a straw roof, and I know that's not real for most of the production, but hey, that's what I'm getting. I'm getting the vivid colours of rugs and ponchos, and sure, to a certain extent there's cliches, but what the hell, when you drink Scotch whisky, do you hear the bagpipes? Well then, you see where I'm coming from. What we're doing is we're manufacturing the malt moments. It's the complexity of smell and taste. Nothing does it better than alcohol. All we have to do is just observe the passive consumers who don't stop, who don't think. They've got their mobile device in one hand, trawling through TikTok. Seriously, you know what I'm talking about. Or checking their Instagram bling, Insta bling. And they've got their tumbler in the other hand with any whiskey. It doesn't matter because it's got loads of ice in it. And they're just going glug, 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 rattle, rattle, rattle. Oh, that's nice. They haven't made the time, they haven't taken the time, and they don't care about the time. The time is not valuable. They're there to consume. Passive consumers. Their experience is shallow. They do not connect to what's in their glass because the quality doesn't matter to them. And you know why? Because they don't understand the value of quality, because they don't have that quality in their lives. We do, no matter what our budget. We're going for quality. And we can still afford it. Compared to watches, compared to clothes, compared to houses, compared to cars, compared to other luxury items. You can go out anywhere in the world and you can get a bottle of liquor that's good quality. And it's affordable and it's accessible. And you're not going to finish it in a couple of nights or even one night. Heaven forbid you don't do that. It's quality. You take your time. You savour the moment. And it gives you the quality of its presence. That's what it does. It shares its quality, and thereby the quality of our experience is enhanced. And with the repetition of this over the days, weeks, months and years, the quality of our lives is enhanced because of this connection. And that's where the malt moments never end. That's where the malt moments are enhanced. The malt moments become more refined. They have more detail. They have more presence. They have more significance. And it doesn't have to be Scotch whisky. It can be any alcohol. You see, I go back to the alchemists here. And the alchemists, when they distilled alcohol, they fused two elements together, the element of water and the element of fire. This is profoundly important. There are magical properties in alcohol, magical properties, but many people don't notice them because they consume too fast and they cannot manage the tipping point, the triggering point between being no longer sober and being totally drunk and dizzy and confused and talking crap and being stupid. There's this middle distance, and the more you fine-tune into that, the more you start to enhance your perceptiveness in a roughly the same way as you would if you were taking LSD. This never gets talked about. It's highly controversial. Nobody else is talking about it. But Maltmates, you're in the bothy now, somewhere in the Irish Sea. I'm Ralphie, and I'm talking about it. Just so as you know. Whew. Bye.